Within the massive populace of automotive enthusiasts out there, there are always those that no matter what budget you're looking at, say that they want some different type of car. But what if you're looking for something a little bit more out there, something that will still turn heads no matter where you go, but something that can be as relaxed and comfortable as, say, a luxury limo, but can still be fun and exciting at the same time when the mood takes you there? Well, this week on The Driveway, I've got the answer for that very situation. And it's all thanks to our friends at Lexus, because today we're going for a spin and showing you all around the 2021 RC350. All right, ladies and gentlemen, so welcome to the 2021 Lexus RC350 F-Sport rear-wheel drive. Quite a mouthful to say, but then again, we are dealing with a pretty well optioned out 2+2 sports coupe made by one of the best Japanese luxury companies on the market. But as always, with any Lexus product, pricing is definitely the bigger headline. So again, we are in a 350 F Sport, so the sportier of Lexus's small 2+2. And the base MSRP is already $49,520. That is a lot of money no matter how you slice it. Now, there are so many options on here, I can't even go through them all, so I'm just going to give you the big ones. So you want things like navigation and a premium audio system. That's $2,725. You want things like the F-Sport Black Line Special Edition package. That's $2,145. You want a power moonroof. That's $1,100. You want the Lexus Dynamic Handling with dynamic rear wheel steering like you'd find in the LC500. That's $1,900. You add up all the extra little nickel and dime options plus the $1,025 delivery processing and handling fee, and for this exact test car of mine here, it comes to $60,520. Oh yeah, she is still a Lexus, all right, and even though it's as sporty as it looks, it drives as sporty as it does, what I want to know is, does it still have that sort of whiff of Lexus quality like I've felt in so many of the company's other products? Well, let's hit the start button, get on the road, let's figure that out, shall we? So first of all, for this test drive, you guys may notice that you are way over there on the passenger side while I'm sitting over here. That is because the mount that I have for my GoPro is not suitable to be clipped onto any form of this car's interior. So we're just gonna have to make do with what we've got. But let's talk RC350. You see, my favorite version of the RC that has ever existed is the RCF, but that had a 5-liter naturally aspirated V8, which they still make, by the way, and it makes about 480 horsepower, which doesn't sound like a whole lot when you compare it to some of today's beefier 8-cylinder sports coupes out there, which those are very few and far between. But like I was saying in the beginning, if you're looking for something relaxed and comfortable, something that's not so crazy and out there, it's something that just allows you more of a sit back and cruise kind of drive style, then the RC350 is perfectly suited to doing just that. But let's talk about the performance, because this is the F-Sport model after all. First of all, up front we have basically the same engine that we find in the Lexus IS, and a few other of Lexus's products. Dubbed the 2GR FKS, it's a 3.5 liter 6-cylinder engine with direct and port fuel injection, and it makes 311 horsepower and 280 foot-pounds of torque. Now, aside from the fact that it is the F-Sport model, so it's supposed to be a little bit more firmed up and muscular compared to, say, just an RC300 with its 2-liter turbo 4-cylinder, the RC is perfectly content to just be a regular daily driver. I have an 8-speed automatic transmission in the middle, which means that on a good day, I will get 20 miles per gallon in the city and 28 miles per gallon on the highway with rear-wheel drive. But if you opt for the V6 with the all-wheel drive, well, your wallet's going to take a bit of a hit, because that drops to 18 in the city, 24 on the highway. Now, unfortunately, because it's decided to start pissing down rain out here, as is pretty typical for Houston in the summer or kind of in the early fall, I can't really test this car's acceleration. I can't really give it a full bore, pedal to the metal, just tire smoking acceleration. However, the one benefit that I really love about the 6-cylinder engine in this car is that it has an absolutely beautiful engine note to it. And all you need to do to enjoy that is you just knock it over into manual mode, go into the drive mode select, we'll knock it up to Sport Plus here, or Sport Sharp as they call it. You knock it down into first gear, and then you give it the beans. Thing sounds so good. Oh, I wish I could bring this car out a little bit more. I really do, because that engine just sounds so good. And yes, I know it sounds a little bit fake. It kind of sounds like there's a bunch of noise being pumped through the speakers. But even if you downshift it a little bit, just listen to this. This thing to its near 7,000 RPM redline all day long. What I love is that, as I was saying earlier, when you're not just blasting down a highway at, you know, ungodly speeds that could certainly get you in trouble, the RC350 is perfectly content to just sit flat on the road and give you a nice, relaxing feeling. Although I will say there is one thing that I'm not a fan of, and you might be able to hear it. With thinner tires on this Blackline Special Edition, thanks to its special alloy wheels, it is a little bit noisier in here. So if you're looking for that sort of Rolls-Royce kind of feeling in your two-door sports coupe, well, you might want to add some extra sound deadening to this thing. But now it's time to really face the facts here, because over $60,000 for a car that's not really much bigger than your usual 2+2 sports car, but yet it has all these luxury amenities in it, is a lot of money. There is no two ways about that. And quite frankly, I don't feel very comfortable spending that kind of money on a car that still needs a bit of work. And you'll see what I mean as we go through the car a little bit later. But in the end, if you are looking for a more luxurious 2+2 and you really want just more of a relaxed feeling, you don't really want to drive everywhere like your backside's on fire, you want to just kind of take it easy and just relax and enjoy the scenery as you drive to work every day, then the RC is a great companion for those seeking a little bit extra from their two-door coupe. But it's not just the driving experience that impresses me, it's the rest of this car. So it's back to our favorite little spot to talk about the rest of the details. Now, I'm not gonna lie to you guys, over the years I've grown a very special soft spot in my heart for the Lexus RC. I've always loved the way Lexus has this beautiful, low-slung and sleek design. It's just a very good-looking car. However, when a company says they're going to change a car completely for a new model year, usually you would think that would be for the better, but there's certain elements of this new design, or at least this new refreshed design, that I'm not as much a fan of compared to its prior generation. Now, the first thing of note is I am really loving the sonic chrome paintwork on this car. It adds sort of like a metallic stealth look to this car, especially again with its low slung profile, and combined with the Blackline package, as I mentioned earlier, I really really think it does this car some serious justice. What I'm not so much a fan of is things like the shape of the headlights. They're now one solid unit. They're full LED, just like before. So you have the LED daytime running lights, LED turn signals, and the Blackline package gives you the premium triple beam headlights as a part of the deal. They also do come with auto cornering lenses. They also have auto high beam assist, but I sort of liked the older design with the split turn signal across the bottom and the main headlight up on top. Nevertheless, we still also have the headlight washers down below, and of course we have the spindle grille here in the middle. Of course, it's surrounded by some nice smoked chrome, kind of give it a little bit more of that sporty appearance. I think it's a little too much gray as far as the mesh insert here in the middle in comparison to like the Sonic Chrome. If this was a different color, I think it would work a little bit better, but it's just a little too monochromatic for me in this case. Of course, we do have the shrouded in Lexus badge as well. That's standard on pretty much all their cars with the Lexus Safety System Plus. And whereas on most Lexus cars that I've tested before, the intuitive park assist that you see lining the front and rear bumpers is actually part of the options list. Now, from a side profile, I've always thought that the RC Coupe sort of looks like a baby LC500. Again, same philosophy with a long hood, a medium-sized 2+2 greenhouse in the middle, and a short deck lid at the back. However, unlike the LC, which looks like a concept car that drove straight off the auto show plinth into the streets, the RC looks like it had a bit more thought put into it. And again, going back to that Sonic Chrome paintwork, you can really see how Lexus's artists have really gone to town here. All the nice curves, like going up the fender here, the little swoosh that goes along the side of the door that connects the door handle to the taillight at the back, and the nice little sort of fang-like extension here along the lower rocker. Now, from the side, there is a nice bit of eye candy to look at, especially not just the optional painted brake calipers that we have here, but with these dark finished 19-inch aluminum alloy wheels. I really love these. They really have a beautiful design to them, and the darker finish really accents all the nice little indentions and curves that we have inside each of the spokes. Now, these are wrapped in 235/40 series 19-inch tires, and yes, I know I was complaining a little bit about the road noise earlier, but you can't deny that from the outside these things look fantastic. And of course, down the side, the RC has at least some of Lexus's latest technology on display. Of course, things like the F-Sport badges are pretty obvious. They should be on an F-Sport model. There's one on each fender, and of course the one on the lower left of the trunk. But as you continue down, the Blackline gives you these blacked out side view mirrors, which I really like. I like the fact they're not body color. They look a little bit more sleek and a little more sporty. They are not power folding, however, so if you were to lock or unlock this car, say with the advanced keyless entry fob that we'll talk about more here in a sec, they will remain stationary. They do have a lashing of chrome, as you would expect. Same thing with the LED turn signal. Now, before we get to the keyless access, up top you can also see we have the optional small power tilting and sliding sunroof, which this car really doesn't need a panoramic roof. I think that would not only take away from the sort of design element, but of course it takes away from the structural rigidity of the car as well. Now, back to the advanced keyless fob here. Of course, it is a standard Lexus key fob: lock, unlock, release the trunk, and panic. And you also have the releasable key blade that comes out of the bottom. Now, that being said, it works just like any other one. You have it on your person. Right now the car is unlocked, as you can see, and all you do to lock it is just tap the little ribbed area on the front of the handle here, or to unlock it, just grab the door handle as you would. And of course, being a coupe, as you get to the RC's back end, again, it is a very sleek and very elegant design all the same. As you can see, the back windshield slopes right down into the trunk lid. You've got the nice little ducktail spoiler going on right here. And of course, we have full LED tail lights, with the exception of the turn signals. Those do remain incandescent, but you have your LED main beams and of course your LED reverse lights back here as well. You also have the F-Sport badge, as I mentioned earlier. Of course, government mandated things like a backup camera across or right underneath the Lexus badge, and of course your standard badging as well, not to mention, again, part of that intuitive park assist on the options list that I was mentioning earlier. And finally, to finish it all off, my favorite thing is the physical dual exhaust that we have down below. And actually, the fun part is that this actually sounds really nice despite being only 6 cylinders. Now, if you're looking for a small 2+2 coupe with any form of trunk space in the back, well, the RC isn't going to be the worst friend in the world, but it's definitely not going to be as much on your side as you think. Now, we go ahead and open the trunk here, and of course, it reveals a somewhat decent size opening, but you notice it doesn't go very far back. Now, you do have split fold seats in the back, as you can see there, but just initial on paper, you're looking at just over 10 cubic feet of cargo space back here. Now, one thing I am grateful for is that they have hidden the trunk latches back here, so that does not take away so much from the cargo area. But overall, it's not going to be your friend if you need something large back here, but if you have, say, a couple of small suitcases, they should fit back here just fine. Now, with as much as I gave praise to the outside of the RC, with my few little gripes here and there is one area of this car that lets it down more than anything else, and that is this interior. Because if you're a Lexus enthusiast like me, or perhaps you've just been around the block in the Lexus product line a few times, you'll notice that this interior sort of looks like a shrunken down version of the same interior you'd find on a Lexus IS, which is not a bad platform to start with, but on a $60,000+ sports coupe like this, I think this car deserves a little bit better. Now, because it is the F Sport, of course, we have all the typical F Sport goodies, like the highly bolstered seats with the charcoal black Nulux leather that we have here. I love the white contrast stitching. I kind of love the pattern that they've gone with here. Like I said, much more extensive bolsters here on the upper and lower parts. They are power adjustable for both sides, including two-way lumbar, the recline. Of course, you can raise the front of the seat up if you want as well. But as you start to get upwards towards the driver's area, we do have a couple of things like the fine ash wood trim that we have here on the steering wheel. That is not a part of the black line package. This steering wheel is an option on its own. However, the black ash wood, or the fine ash wood, is a part of the black line pack, and you'll actually notice it if you come over here to like the doors surrounding all of your window controls, locks, window locks, mirrors, etc. And you also have a 3-person memory setting for the driver's seat as well. And lastly, you come over here to the left of the steering column. You do have the power tilt and telescope adjustments, as you would expect, instrumentation dimming, odometer trip functions, and you also have things like the auto high beam assist, the heated windshield washer fluid for an all-weather package we have on this car, blind spot monitoring, the park assist, and then way underneath is the button to open the trunk. Now, despite my gripes about the IS style interior, the RC Coupe's inside still feels like it has that air of Lexus quality in it, which is definitely something you want when you're spending the kind of price point that we have on my test car here. Now, despite the fact that I will get to my gripes as we go along, there are some elements that I really like. Like, for example, I was pointing out the steering wheel. I love how nice and thick and chunky it is. I love the white contrast stitching in here. And I even like the little bit of wood that goes across the top. Now, personally for me, I say I like it, but I do like a full leather wrap steering wheel, because sometimes when I'm driving, it's kind of weird going from one texture to another. But that being said, you still have the perforations on the sides of the wheel. And of course, you have all the buttons to control everything you could possibly need. So on the right hand side, we have an aero pad here, which controls the thin film transistor display that comprises your adjustable gauge cluster, which can be adjusted by the button on the steering wheel that looks like the pages of a book. I press it once, and you watch as the tack actually moves over a little bit, and suddenly you have a much larger display over here on the left, and that is what that aero pad is primarily meant to adjust. Also, you notice your fuel and temperature gauges move from the sides of the tachometer down to the lower part of the gauges as well. I can go ahead and move it back just so you can see exactly what I'm talking about. But also on the lower right of the wheel, we have things like the distance sensor for the adaptive radar cruise control, which has the ubiquitous sort of old school stalk down here on the lower right. We also have the lane departure warning with lane keep assist. You go over here, and of course, this is all your hands-free Bluetooth, voice recognition, and hands-free radio controls as well. Now, of course, this is the F Sport model, and it is a sporty car in general, so Lexus has given us these nice sort of metallic feeling paddle shifters on the back. I like the color of them, but they are still plasticky, and if you can hear, they don't exactly have the nicest sound to them when you're using them. But then again, that's kind of an afterthought when you're using the paddles up here on the wheel, driving it in manual mode. Now, out of all the grievances that I have with the RC's interior, my biggest one by a country mile is the navigation screen. Now, like I said, this does have the dynamic navigation and the upgraded audio as an option, but it's the positioning of that 10.3-inch screen that annoys me to no end, because right now the camera is sitting pretty much at eye level from where I'm sitting in the driver's seat. And if you notice, this top part of the dash here, which contains like your air vents and the analog clock, basically blocks out the lower part of the screen, and that is such an annoyance to me when I'm trying to use it. So I feel like I kind of have to crane my neck a little bit when I'm using the Lexus remote touch interface with the mouse pad down in the lower console to basically do anything down here. Now, speaking of that remote touch interface, I do have the menu options as well. So you have destination, audio, Bluetooth phone, you have the Lexus Inform app suite. This does have Android Auto, Apple CarPlay, and I believe Amazon Alexa compatibility as well. We have generalized information and infotainment setup, as well as the ubiquitous touchscreen part of the climate control. Now, this has a dual zone system in it, but if you notice, I just come down here and there's the buttons for it. I still don't understand why Lexus put a touchscreen form of the climate control up here when really you could just reach down a couple of inches and there's all the buttons right down here. Now, I talked about it just a moment ago, but I have to say it again. In every Lexus product that I've tested that carries any form of the Mark Levinson audio system, I have always enjoyed it. But what I really enjoy about this one is it has 17 speakers and you're in a much smaller cabin. So the way that the sound is distributed makes it feel like it's something much more powerful than it really is. Of course, aside from that beautiful Mark Levinson audio system and all of the functions I just showed you within this screen, you still get the basics in here. So you still get a backup camera, of course, with the turnable guidance lines and the intuitive park assist, as I mentioned before, but you may not be able to see it as well, but there's actually like a black empty space over here on the side of the screen. I really wish that the backup camera was full screen instead of just this smaller kind of area. This car doesn't have a 360 camera, as you saw, so it's kind of interesting that even though I can go down here in the lower left and actually change the angle of the camera, so now I have more of like a fisheye lens, there still remains this black space over here, which is just kind of annoying to me. Like I said, I kind of wish it was more of a full screen camera instead of just the smaller one. You still get the automatic door locks as well, which right now I have them set to when you start rolling, they automatically will lock. However, you can have them set to when you put it in any gear other than park, it will automatically lock the doors. Now, aside from the screen, the rest of the sort of IS inspired interior, or pretty much the same thing as the IS's interior, is very basic here inside of the RC. Like I said, you have two small air vents here in the middle part of the console with the analog clock in the middle. I kind of like the fact it almost has sort of a carbon fiber finish to the back of the clock. You can't really see it unless you look super close, but I kind of like that. It adds a little bit more of a sporty touch. But then as you trail down, you get to the very simple controls for, again, the dual zone climate control system. The digital display up top, which displays your fan speed, temperature, driver and passenger, and your climate zones. But the cool part is at least from the IS's and RC's standpoint, is that the temperature controls are touch, as you can hear. Now, of course, you can turn off that little beep, which kind of sounds like the beeper on a microwave. But either way, you know, it's kind of cool that you get at least some touch functions in here, but the rest of them are all buttons. Fan speed, climate zone, you have the button to control the temperature simultaneously, so that's labeled dual. You have AC, air recirculation, front and rear defrost with the heated outside mirrors, automatic climate control, you name it, it's up there. As you continue down a little bit further, of course, you have the power and volume and tuning and scrolling knobs with, yet again, back to the 90s, everybody, a CD player here. In a $60,000+ sports coupe, there is a CD player up here. I don't know of any other company that still has a CD player in pretty much every single car that they make. Now, underneath, there are some very tiny little buttons. We actually have the eject button, radio, media, seek track, and of course, play and pause. And again, once you even get down here to the lower console, everything just seems, well, very simple, aside from the Lexus remote touch interface, which I'm so glad that Lexus is starting to phase out this system, because it's just been such an annoyance to me every time I use the system. I'm not really a fan of the mouse pad. I'm more of a fan of like a touchscreen system. Again, if the screen wasn't set so far back in this, it would be really nice if it was touchscreen. But overall, everything else down here is super easy to find. Like things like the controls for the heated and ventilated seats up here. They're 3-stage for both front occupants. Of course, the back seats are so small you couldn't possibly have rear heated seats back here. This one also comes with a steering wheel heater as well, which is always nice to have, even though in Texas it gets about as cold as, say, the Midwest in the middle of spring. But either way, on the other side of that, this is the fun button, or the fun dial, I would say, because this is the drive mode select. And what's cool is not only does it tailor this car's sort of personality in several different ways, it also changes what you're looking at as a driver. You've seen it in Lexus products before, but if I go into like eco or normal mode, for example, you notice the gauge cluster has sort of the black ring around it, all your relevant information in the middle. But if I twist it over into sport mode, first of all, just regular sport gives you a kind of nice white outline, you know, a little bit more definition to the gauge. But just like the LC500 that I tested last winter, if you turn it again to Sport Plus, it almost resembles the same gauge you'd find in a Lexus LFA, a bright white ring all the way around, black numerics, and a much more defined red line over here on the far right. Aside from the drive mode select switch and a couple of other buttons that we have here, like snow mode, the traction control, and the auto brake hold, I also really like the gear shifter in here, because I can rest my arm perfectly on this beautiful leather-bound center console and rest my hand perfectly on the gear stick. Now, it is one of those kind of gated ones, so you see it moves back through all kinds of crazy directions. But of course, it does have the manual mode, so you pull back to go down a gear, push forward to go up a gear. Although personally, I've never been a fan of using the stick. I always love using the paddles in a car like this. Again, we've covered the Lexus remote touch interface, so nothing else to talk about there. You do have two rather sizable cup holders in here, which I'm kind of ashamed that I don't have a bottle to demonstrate, because I've been able to fit some pretty sizable things, although not as big as like a medium-sized bottle of Gatorade. Haven't been able to fit that in there, but your typical fast food beverages or like a 20-ounce bottle of soda will fit in there just fine. But this has usually been the resting place for the car's key fob. As you can see, I've put it there. It's also big enough I can fit my Galaxy S9 smartphone in there without really any issue. I've been able to fit all kinds of stuff in those little cubby holes. And then as you come back to the center console itself here, it's somewhat deep. You have two USBs and an auxiliary input in there. As you can see, I've got things like my vape juice in there. I've also got my my keys in there. But overall, I mean, it's big enough for, say, a few things, but it's not the deepest center console you're ever going to find. Now, even though the RC is indeed a true 2+2 sports coupe, I'm going to tell you guys, unless you are the size of a midget or just perhaps a small child, you are not going to fit in the back seats here. So you grab the latch, you pull the seat forward, and it slides forward on its own powered mechanism. So I slide it all the way up, and as you can see, as long as the seat remains tilted forward, it automatically slides up to allow access into the rear seats. Now, as you can see, the rear seats have basically no comforts, but as I said, they are 60/40 split fold. You can see the latch up there at the upper edge of the seat. But overall, like I said, there's really no room in there. As you can see, even behind myself, I'm over 6 feet tall. There's not even enough room for a decent pair of legs back there. So really, if you're really gonna buy one of these and hope that you can have some back seat room in it, well, you might wanna go with like an IS or even an ES if you need something that big. In conclusion, the 2021 Lexus RC350 is a fantastic example of a small 2+2 luxury sports coupe. Granted, it doesn't have a whole lot of space in the back seats, and yes, if you want something a little more powerful, you might have to go to the pre-owned market to find an RCF with the big V8. However, if you're looking for something a little more mild-mannered, but you want all the luxury amenities, and you want something that can be fun and exciting when the mood takes you there, then the RC Coupe may may fit that bill perfectly. But that wraps it up for today's review. So if you guys like this video, or perhaps you learned something today, please give this video a thumbs up. And also, while you're at it, hit that subscribe button down below, because trust me, it will benefit the both of us at the end of it. At the end of the day, as always, the credit goes right back to Lexus USA for allowing us access to another one of their vehicles for a full week of fun. But at the end of it, guys, I hope you enjoyed the review, and I will see y'all next time. Take care, everybody, and stay safe.